time for a yap session. This time it's going to be a little bit of Marvel, but mainly about Alien Romulus. So the first bit of Marvel is going to be the Kraven the Hunter trailer, which I don't think I've talked about in one of these videos yet. I saw it again, the trailer, in front of Alien Romulus, and honestly, it looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm not gonna overhype it for myself because at the end of the day, it is a Sony Spider-Verse movie without Spider-Man in it. But the fact that it's rated R gives me a little bit of hope with the story. The Rhino, I think the Rhino looks good in live action. The way that they're doing it, if they try to do the human face in the Rhino suit, I think it would look a little bit more wonky. But um, I think the way that it looks now, it looks pretty good. I can't lie. The blood looks good. The violence looks like it's gonna be something serious. That's really all I'm expecting. I'm not expecting an amazing performance from anybody, to be honest. Maybe Russell Crowe and Aaron Taylor Johnson are the ones that I'm looking forward to the most. Obviously, being Craven and Russell Crowe playing Craven's father. But I mean, like, I'm not expecting the most. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, there's that. Now, for Alien Romulus, let's do initial thoughts on all of that first. No spoilers for now. Positives, I will say I absolutely loved the atmosphere that they were able to portray from the very beginning. The atmosphere is on point. Damn, the cinematography is on point. The music, the sound cues that they were able to bring out is probably my favorite part of the film. Because the sound design, production, all of that is just top notch across. Like, there's never a low point when it comes to that. The cast is on point. If I remembered everyone's name, like the cast themselves, I would call them by name, but I'm gonna just call them by how they were in the movie. So the MC, I honestly don't even remember her name. Rain, I think it was no. The best performance was Andy, which was the android. Definitely the best performance in the entire movie. He was on point from the jump, and I was just so surprised with how, like, his facial expressions and how much he was able to portray without even saying anything in a lot of cases. The MC, badass. All I could think about the whole time is how she would be so good as a season two Ellie, because she looks like and acts like it, especially towards the end when because she says motherfucker at the end. It literally sounded like Ellie was saying it from the second Last of Us game. Like, it's legit sounded like her. Isabella Merced's character was great as well. I absolutely love her as an actress. The only cast that I didn't like, which was probably on purpose, so I'm counting it as a positive, was the first, was the British dude. I forgot his name. He was definitely like, you were meant to hate him type of thing. So I liked it because of that. What was the other part? So atmosphere, cinematography, sound design, the cast. I think, like, besides the cinematography and the way things were shot, visually everything looked good. Like, the alien looked good, the face huggers looked good. I think that's it positive wise that I can think of. Negatives, I am lower on it than a lot of other people because I went into the movie expecting, like, the Godzilla minus one of the Aliens franchise. And I didn't get that because a bunch of people were overhyping it, so I'm a little bit lower on it. Like, when I initially came out of the theater, I thought it was like a solid 7, to be quite honest. But I sat with it a little bit, and I definitely am closer to an 8, but still, I'm definitely a lot lower on it than other people are. And it's not a bad movie at all. It was great, like, for the reasons that I mentioned. But I didn't think, I still don't think it's like some masterpiece. Because there was a good few moments that it was just slow for me. Like, after the beginning, it sets up itself really nicely. There's just like, in between the intense moments, there's like moments that it's very slow. And it's not like I completely took me out of the film, but it definitely like dampened the experience that I had. Since I had those experiences in between the intense ones, it just like I kept getting pulled in, then taken out, pulled in, and then taken out, and it just affected like the way that I felt about the movie itself. Another thing that's a negative for me personally is the I don't think I mentioned this in the positives, but it was very unsettling, which I love about horror movies. Because jump scares don't get me, but what gets me is the theme of the movie or how they set it up, and then it being unsettling within the context of the movie. So even though Alien itself is very unsettling, um, the jump scares didn't get me at all, except for maybe one towards the end that like made me jump a little bit. But I don't like when horror movies rely on using sound to jump scare because it just feels cheap. And every single jump scare was that I can remember was based on a loud noise, especially towards the beginning half, prior to the alien showing up. Yeah, I think the movie was. I'm not gonna say a little long because everything they did, like the movie, is good. It's a good film. Like follow through storyline, all of that. The ending was amazing. It just got overhyped for me. If I went into it not knowing anything about the movie, I would I would probably rate this like a 9. If I hadn't heard anything about it, I would definitely rate it like a 9 or something like that. Fuck, I pressed the wrong button. I would definitely rate it like a 9. But with it, I'm like at a 7.5, 8. So being that that's the non-spoilers, let's get into spoilers now. From the beginning, from the beginning when they open up the movie, I was locked in because the cinematography was just so beautiful to look at, and it immediately drags you and pulls you into this world that they've created or that they were showing, and it was so nice in terms of like being able to see it on the big screen because I've never seen an alien movie on the big screen, and obviously the space, the sci-fi is what aliens is about besides the horror and all that. So I absolutely love seeing all that. Like it genuinely wowed me and amazed me. Seeing the world that was here. The characters immediately are likable with them MC and Andy, which I think the main character's name is Rain. With Rain and Andy, who are like siblings, but Andy is essentially like her adopted brother that is an android, and she's obviously trying to escape this planet to go to one that has like a sun where her parents are, I believe, and it's a good concept. Like it's a good motive for her to want to try to get onto the ship and leave. How do they know I'm chasing them? So once we get that initial, like I would say the first 30 minutes, I was locked. And then once we get our other cast of characters, and specifically that British dude, he was so annoying that on it honestly pulled me out of the film a little bit. I knew that was what they were going for, like him being purposely annoying, but like it was just so overdone that, like I said, it just took me out of the film for certain parts, and it sucked because the first big moment, which is where they're getting the extra cryo like batteries or whatever to refill the sleeping pods for their trip, where the face huggers are at. Like that was a great scene, and I felt like it was kind of muddied by the fact that he was just yapping and yapping and yapping and bullying Andy, which I get eventually, but it felt overdone to the point where it was pulling me out of the film, like I've said. But speaking of that facehugger scene where they're getting the refill for the cryo sleep pods, I absolutely love that scene. The color, the colors, the production in that room with the face huggers underneath the water was just brilliant. Like honestly brilliant. The way that they were able to terrify me so quickly was genuinely good. Like when they started, like when you heard that's the thing I'm talking about. The noise that they were able to bring in when the temperature started dropping in the room or raising, I should say, and you would see the temperature climbing and the facehuggers starting to move in their pods. Like I was terrified in that moment. And when they all come out and they're crawling all up on the floor, and then they jump on the guy on the British dude's face, which another thing I like is how heavily they lean into the allegory for SA that the alien movies are, because they need the humans to continue living, and they have to capture them and impregnate them basically. And they handle that concept exceptionally well in the movie, especially with Isabella Merced's character, who was pregnant, and she ended up giving birth to a terrifying fucking alien. Like that's such a smart move and decision that like you can't go out of this movie and be like, oh, that sucked. Which is why I think it's a great movie, great movie. But there is parts of it that I can admit that I didn't enjoy. So anyway, back to that water sequence. When Andy finally reboots, he turns into like this badass, which I absolutely loved that scene as well. Andy carried the movie. Whenever he was on screen, he was easily stealing the film. And I would say Andy's progression in terms of the way he changed, like the way he was able to change the actor I'm talking about, like change the way he was acting so quickly, like on a dime, was insane to me. And it was almost like a natural progression for his character because the androids have always been like these somewhat antagonists because they're always trying to do what's quote unquote best for the company and best for the people that hire them or made them, as opposed to the humans who are trying to do the best for everyone they possibly can with their limited knowledge. So Andy was at first like this blend of like, yes, being an android and having and wanting to do what's best in terms of like logically. But with Rain, his sister, it was a mix logical nature of the android, but also an emotional side, which you could see whenever he was doing that, like blinking. It was like he was reconfiguring to try to emulate or assimilate to the emotions of the humans. And then when we get the half android from Alien One, that it was the same dude. I forgot his name. It causes a shift where he has to become like, or he becomes full android, like the way that they should be, or the way that they usually are, I should say. And that's the reason it paid off so well throughout the film. Like he started out the way he started off, the way he turned into, and the way it ended. When it was just him and Rain at the end, is because of the actor. I don't think anyone else could have done it that well. Like it was genuinely amazing to see. So, praising Andy aside, the next moment that's been stuck in my mind since I saw it this past weekend was the scene where all the facehuggers are out and Rain and her boyfriend or her ex or whatever and Andy, which at this point he was already like the android. They had already met the half android. Oh my god, I forgot. Before they met the half android, or I guess while, because he was the commanding officer that they got the module from that ended up upgrading Andy, so to speak. The Asian character ended up getting the face hugger to her face, and that's where that whole thing where I was talking about the division comes with Andy being the logical android and telling them what he needs to do, and that creates that first initial divide, which leads to the whole movie essentially. Which Andy was right, obviously, but the humans being so emotional don't want to believe that up until it happens. So once she gets that face hug on her, which disgusting, by the way, the Asian gets the tentacle down her throat. Crazy sentence, but yeah, that's basically what happened. And that's when Andy, like I said, gets that upgrade, so to speak, where he gets the mission to do the directive to do what's best for the company. And that's when we get our divide. The British dude ends up leaving Rain, Andy, and her Rain's ex-boyfriend, which I hope her name is Rain. I'm gonna look it up. Thank God it's Rain. Um, so then they're left alone, which is where we get. I think no, like when I'm thinking about the movie, this is the scene that I think of because it terrified me the most. It made me the most suspenseful, which was when Rain, her boyfriend was just Tyler because I just looked it up, and Andy all alone trying to make their way towards where the genetically modified, like I was about to say symbiote because of playing Spider-Man, but it kind of looked like a symbiote. But where the genetically modified little things were that they were keeping, like trying to work on the perfect being, and the face huggers when they had to be quiet, and then once the British dude and the Asian chick make it back to the ship where Isabella's at, since she was stayed there because she was sick from being pregnant, and you hear Tyler talking, like it picks up the frequency on the radio, and he's whispering, and then she's screaming while the alien was coming out of the fucking thing, which I didn't even mention the chest burster in her scream, which was amazing. To, like the whole X-ray thing, because we saw it in the trailer, so I didn't mention it, but still. And then when the alien's in the cocoon and it comes out slowly, and then the acid like goes through Tyler's face, or not Tyler, through the other British dude's face, and it just like explodes him, and then it starts going to the hull. Oh my god, it was just so good. Isabella's character is calling Tyler, and that's where we get the radio thing when they're walking through the face huggers, and you see them just like almost like spider lobster things because they're like their first little front antenna things remind me of a lobster, and they're just like smelling essentially like the change in fear, their goosebumps, their body detecting their body temperature since they raised the room to match theirs. And then you see the goosebumps come across Tyler's arm when Isabella's character tells him like what's going on, and you could hear it. And then the goosebumps come apart and come on, and then obviously at that point they're detectable by the facehuggers. And then Andy goes run, and then they run, and then Andy closes the door, and then he has to slide through, which is part of like the whole thing with Andrew is that they sacrifice the few to save the many. And man, it was just a little robot. That was definitely the standout for me. We know that the alien is out. The first British dude is dead. The Asian chick is dead. Once they get out, Rain and Tyler and Andy get out of their situation. Then they reconnect briefly with Isabel, which when Isabel jumps out of the not jumps up but falls out when she opens the door to escape the ship, she falls out. Then she's crawling and we see the alien like stalking. We get another great scene where obviously Andy at this point is doing what's best for the company because of his directives, right? So Tyler is like inches away from his sister, which is Isabella's character, and begging Andy to open it. And then the alien, you just see it jump down and just is stalking them. And it's just so like, because the alien is waiting for them to open the door so that it can kill all of them. And the way it's just standing there, Isabella's character is just begging to open the door, open the door, open the door. And then this is where Tyler finds out that she's pregnant because Rain tries to reason with Andy to open the door, but he won't. because once again, it's the lives of the few for the many. That was probably the most like the best. No, I'm not gonna. I was gonna say the best acted, but no, not the best acted moment. Once Isabella's character gets taken by the alien, which I thought she died in that moment, and I was like, oh, that was a weird death. But no, she's not fully dead at this point. Tyler is pissed off, is reasonably upset at the fact that Andy didn't save his sister, because at this point they still don't know why he's like fully acting this way. But they start like getting closer to it. So once Andy, Rain, and Tyler make it to the lab, this is where we find out the whole like we get further evidence or further plot points as to what the directive from the company is, which is getting these vials that I mentioned earlier having like a genetic like blend, so to speak, of alien and human DNA to create the perfect organism, which is the goal of the company. And once we find that out, we end up seeing tests like a test video of it working on a rabbit where the rabbit was completely decimated and it reconstructed itself. But then we see how it ended up turning the rabbit into like this weird alien hybrid thing, which foreshadowing for what ends up in probably one of the best finales of a movie I've seen in a while. We end up getting armed with weapons, and I like how they explain the whole aimbot thing, that like it's heat seeking, I think it was. So like it always like moves them. So once we get armed and equipped, Rain and Tyler have their blicks. We end up leaving the lab, trying to escape back to the pod. Once we have what the company wants, the android that is from Alien 1 ends up being able to control the ship like an autopilot to take it back to where they need to take the samples of the reconfigured DNA to. So since they have the DNA now in the test tubes, they are able to start making their way back to the ship. And now here is where shit gets kind of crazy, which is when Rain, Tyler, and Andy are all making their way through this like hive type of thing. And at first, it's like full of like face hugger pods and all that, so they decide to turn around. But then Tyler hears his sister, and Rain runs, and obviously Andy follows them. And they find her like full of goo and shit trapped on the wall. Once they pull her from the wall, they have her on the ground. She's like basically about to die, and they need to get her into the sleep pods, into the cryo pods, so that she's able to survive till they're able to get care for her. At least that's what they were thinking. But and at first they were gonna inject her with the genome thing, but then Rain was like, "This is not a good idea. Don't do it." Which Rain is the goat. No, Andy's the goat of the movie, but Rain was the goat in this particular instance. So then once they get back Isabella's character, they end up taking her to an elevator that they're able to take back to the ship. Before they get to the elevator, this is where the alien pops up, right? Yeah, Isabella's character is laying down on the floor. The alien comes down, takes Tyler, takes him up, gives him a nice, meaty, chunky head bite. They open up the elevator, right? Tyler and Rain. The elevator is starting to come down. I think that's when the alien jumps down, takes Tyler, gives him up, gives him a little French kiss, dies. The way that the blood is dripping down the hole. Pause. That sounds crazy. Was pretty cool. Rain is like frantically trying to get into the elevator with Isabella, and at this point, it knocks over Andy, and Andy's like having a seizure, convulsing on the floor. Then, as Rain and Isabel are on the elevator, she's like, "Can you make it to the cryopod? Take the samples. I have to go back for Andy. I can't leave him." So she's going up the thing. Rain comes back down. I'm thinking about the scene now. Obviously, I'm missing a lot in between. But when she comes back to get Andy, switches out his module and all that, And then we get this scene, bro. Even though the scene is better than the facehugger scene with the room when they were running, I think that scene just stuck with me more because it's very intense. This is just awesome to look at. When she makes it back up, the android from Alien 1 is like, okay, engage the autopilot, bro. Like, let's go. She's like, no, we gotta wait. Or she doesn't do it at that moment. Andy and Rain are down there. She reboots him and all that. He comes back with his original directive. As they're trying to make their escape because the elevator's already gone, they they can't. And then they're trying to escape other ways. And then the android dude is like, "Hey, sorry, y'all are done." You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to do what's best for the company. And then Rain, obviously, this is very like cliff notes of what happens. She turns off the gravity, which was the thing that was happening throughout the movie at the beginning, which where when the gravity was would turn on and off like every 10 minutes in 10-minute intervals. So she turns it off as there's like 15, 20 aliens coming out crawling towards them, which every one of them looked fucking beautiful. Like in terms of like creepiness and all that, they looked great. Starts crawling towards them super slowly across on the walls. Ugh, it was just nasty. They looked like fucking big ass roaches. He turns off the gravity. They're all floating and shit. And then he's holding onto the floor, grabs Rain, holding her. She turns on the aimbot and starts going fucking ballistic on all of them. It just keeps like turning to each alien. Acid blood is obviously floating because of the gravity. So it's floating, 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 floating. They have to swim basically, or float through the blood. She uses the gun to like move herself out of the way, and then they have to move on before the fucking the gravity comes back on, because if not the blood's gonna spill all up on them. So they make their way back to the elevator. They're making their way up, and then what? Oh yeah, they're making their way up and up and up. Andy goes first, then Rain follows, and an alien grabs her. She shoots the alien. It knocks her like floating like in the middle of the elevator shaft. Her gun is far away, and it's just her floating. And then at this point, obviously the aliens can get through the hole on the elevator because of the acid. So so Rain is floating. Andy's on the ladder thing. Rain's trying to make her way through, and then aliens are like coming through trying to grab her and shit. So when there's an alien, they're grabbing her. At this point, the elevator was. Oh wait, no, no, no. The acid was it the acid that burned through a hole in the? Yeah, I think the acid burned through a hole at the bottom of the elevator shaft. So like the elevator was coming down quickly, but then Andy was holding it. But since anti-gravity, she was able to float towards the ladder, I should say, not the stairs. Andy let go of the elevator. It took one of the aliens and sealed the elevator shaft so that obviously they wouldn't get sucked back out. But then another alien, which it looked bigger than the rest, so I think this was like the prime alien, was grabbing her, and obviously she didn't have her gun or anything. But this is when Andy comes down and like I was like, what did he say? Did he say don't touch my sister or some shit? He said whatever he said. He was like, but bitch. That and the whole joke thing throughout the entire movie was something I didn't like. Also, anytime they were joking, I didn't laugh one single time. I got a chuckle when the whole bitch thing happened because that felt like an actual joke. But I didn't. I thought the other jokes were like boring. Not boring, but like they didn't make me laugh or anything. Like I got what was happening, but it wasn't just whatever. Um. So once that happened, we're like, oh, like the classic alien thing where you're like, oh yay, everything's good and nice and we're calm, right? Let's get to the ship. Let's engage the autopilot. Let's put Isabella's character in the cryopod. We won, right? What you think? And then not out of nowhere. But then when Isabella is in the pod and then it gives her the alert and then she opens it up, and then I was gonna say Riley. I don't know why. I was thinking Ripley and Rain and Ellie together. Whatever. As she's convulsing in the pod, Rain's like, "What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?" Oh fuck! I didn't mention. Isabel's character before she gets onto the thing injects herself with one of the genome splicers, whatever the fuck it is, and that's why she was convulsing. It was gross, but this is another thing. The movie, like on Twitter and stuff, I was seeing, oh my god, it's the most disgusting thing ever. And it was just, oh, I was expecting like someone getting ripped apart, or like eh, it was gross. Don't get me wrong, like it was disgusting, but it wasn't like, oh my god, I'm gonna throw the fuck up, disgusting. And so like that's another thing. Like the whole time I was waiting, like the anticipation was building, but I was waiting for this super disgusting moment, and it never happened. Like for me, up until the end where I was like, oh, so this is what they were talking about, but it wasn't like, oh my god, like I said, like oh my god, I'm gonna throw up. It wasn't like that for me. Oh shit. So as she's convulsing, she's giving like live birth to like this egg sac thing, which I don't know how the hell she even survived prior. Like, I don't know how she survived that and managed to like live after for like 5 minutes. But it's like coming out of her, and then I don't even remember what happened. How did it like? What the fuck even happened? Oh wait, did she like shoot it or something and it burned through? I think it burned through where they were at into the hole. And since there was like a hole, a thing with the hole, they couldn't leave because the hole had like there was an integrity thing happening. So Rain jumps down there like a badass with her little space suit. I feel like I'm missing something here because I feel like no, the spacesuit thing happened after when she was getting chased. Where did Riley go? I mean, where did Rain go after the whole birth? Damn, I forgot. That's crazy. Cause see, what happens at the end, like, was like at the forefront of my mind. Besides the face hugger scene when they're running through the hall, so I completely forgot what happened. That's crazy. Oh my god, that whole sequence was amazing too, and the alien blood thing, like, I how can I not remember, bro? I just saw this shit like 2 days ago. That's crazy. I don't remember. Well, so anyway, Isabel's character is cooked, dying on the wall or on the thing, whatever. Bro, what the fuck happened? Where did this fucking big ass bitch come from? No, I think that is what happened. The egg sac came out of Isabel, and then the acid threw it into the hole. Rain went to go check on it, and then that's when she saw that this whole thing was that in the background you could kind of see it like crawling around, and then it went back. The giant thing went back to Isabel while Rain was down there. It went back up to Isabel, and it was like this tall, gross, lanky, white motherfucker. And it was like at first when it was like crawling towards Isabel, I thought it was gonna be like mommy or some shit. But if that shit would have talked, I don't. Ugh, that shit was nasty. Maybe that's what they were. It wasn't like, but it wasn't like, oh my god, disgusting, gross. It was just like disturbing, which I absolutely love in horror movies. But then it popped up there, and I'm pretty sure it ate her. It was eating her neck from her like her body, was it not? Is what it looked like. Like I thought it was like a Mortal Kombat fatality where it like ripped out her spine, but I guess maybe that was her hair. Like, see, it, if I'm remembering it correctly, that's disturbing. Like, imagine if that would be crazy if they would have shown the alien like ripping her head off and like her spine came out like Mortal Kombat fatality type shit, and was just eating her when Rain shows back up with the freeze, the nitrogen, fucking whatever the fuck, to try to freeze it. That should have been crazy, crazier. Anyway, this tall, lanky, white motherfucker is and hissing and shit, chasing Rain. And then I feel like I'm mixing up this end part, but because then there's like this scene where Rain ends up going through like a containment thing that starts freezing over, and then she's like obviously freezing to death, and then she gets into the spacesuit, which then she then goes back down into the into the cargo area that she has to release in order for the ship to leave. But I feel like I'm missing something that I can't remember. So anyway, she goes through the containment thing. It's freezing over. She gets into the spacesuit that warms her up and allows her to breathe properly, while this white lanky thing is chasing her. She gets into the hole, and at this point, she's like trying to the hole, and she's disconnecting the disconnecting the connectors. It's crazy, but I mean that's essentially what she's doing, and she's disconnecting them to get rid of the hole and attempt to get rid of the tall, white, lanky motherfucker so that she's able to leave. And the what is up here?
So this is how Craven had eyes and ears all over the city?
Okay. So basically, she's down. So once she's down there trying to remove the hole and remove the storage. Damn, it's an hour. It's been an hour of me yapping. That's crazy. That's the first time it's ever been an hour of one of these things. Holy shit. We were wrapping it up now anyway, but damn. So I really hope this is all recording because if it's not and I go back to edit this, I'm gonna be fucking pissed. Anyway, the once she's trying to open up the extra cargo area and disconnect her so that they're able to fly away, the alien is like following her and shit. Ugh, it's so creepy. And then we get another great like sequence where it disconnects, but then the alien's grabbing her and keeping her outside of the ship. So she's floating, but she's still connected because the spacesuit has like a paracord thing that's connected inside. So she's floating, and then we think that everything's all good because the alien gets sucked out. But then he's like, we get this is where the jump scare comes that I was talking about earlier. That was probably the best jump scare of the movie, but like it was just a loud noise and a face popping up. It's like that video of like that old ass video maze that like you go through on a dot and at the end it leads you to a jump scare that pops up on the screen. Like it wasn't really like scary itself. The noise is what makes you jump, which like I said I hate in movies. I like when they rely purely on the unsettling nature of their horror movie characters, which is why I have like movies like Hereditary as one of my favorite horror movies. Because one of the scariest moments, we'll save that for like an October episode, because we're not gonna get into that now. But still, so then that jump scare happens, and then it ends up getting sucked out. Still, pause, and then she successfully disconnects it. She makes it back, and then she gives us the. Oh my god! This is part of what I was missing in the thing. Andy comes because the ship starts like tweaking out, and jumps out of his chair because initially Rain had locked him into a spot, saying, giving him a new directive to do what's best for them instead of just her. And then the tall, lanky motherfucker slices his neck, and he's like frothing out of the neck, out of his neck milk, whatever the fuck. That's part of what I was missing. That was sad because I loved Andy. But anyway, so then she back to where we're at. Now everyone's dead. It's just her. Classic alien fucking classic alien ending type of thing. And then she leaves her log like Ripley did at at the end of the first one and puts herself into cryogenic sleep and then the movie ends. So that last 40 minutes, last 40 30 minutes, peak. Loved it. But it was just like it took the first 30 minutes were great setting up the world. Then there was breaks in between the intense, awesome moments that just took me out of the film almost completely, and it made me feel like, oh my god, this movie was overhyped. So that's why I ended up. Initially, I gave it a 7. Then I bumped it up to an 8 because I think, or yeah, because I think it's around an 8. I think if I had no idea what was happening in the movie going into it, I would have given it like a 9 or a 10. But since I was overhyped in terms of people saying it was like the best Aliens movie, I was expecting the Godzilla minus one of the Alien series, and people were saying it was one of the most disgusting things they've ever seen at the end, which it wasn't for me. It overhyped it for me. So that's where I was initially at a 7, but I think the movie itself is very good to the point where it bumps it up to an 8 despite of what I didn't like. So I'm surprised we made it to an hour. This when I edit it, it's probably gonna take it down to like 30 fucking minutes. But if y'all did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, comment below what you thought of Alien Romulus. And with that being said, remember to stay happy, healthy, positive. Peace out.